ain't really wanna be moving when it's wartime. Niggas love the clout chase, that's the shit they glorify. I don't even try hard, this gangsta shit immortalized. No records up in trace, when your crime is organized. No man is over me, I'm highest in the morning time. Low key in the birds when I cross the state borderlines. Spin your block a horrified, fuck you bitch, you mortified. Don't stand the way you draw the line, nigga, hold the line. My nuts at that grabbing mine, both of mine, quit holding mine. You gon' get this work and some overtime, you know the vibes. Little nigga, you know it's me. I don't need them to notice me. When conflict get crucial, I can't help but do it bogusly. Smoke you like a stove, beat you like you stole from me. Niggas out of body, put you back where you supposed to be. I shoot at you waking in the moment, niggas toast for you. My niggas do the most for me. That's what they supposed to. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming, if you came with me. You know what's going, stop playing with me. I want all this smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming, if you came with me. Gang, you know what's going, stop playing with me. Real gangsters move critically. When that shit get critical, no peace amongst enemies, no pity of the pitiful. Real nigga down to the bones and the minerals. Stick to the G code, I never took.
Hey, what's good, what's up? Shalom. I know y'all see the title, right? I know y'all see the title. God bless Israel, the Black Hispanics and Native Indians and First Nation people and no one else, right? Yeah, so we're gonna get into the covenant, the promise that God made to the people of Israel, right? And cause a lot of people are under the persuasion that the covenant was for everybody, through Abraham and all that stuff. You hear a lot of people say, well, through Abraham, the covenant, was for everybody. But we're gonna read it and see exactly, what it says, right? And of course, we like to start off by giving all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, and we do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right? So yeah, right, we're gonna go right to it though. We're gonna start in Genesis, right? Right to it. Let's see, where should we start? All right, let's start at Genesis 17 and 7, right? So, so this is Abraham, right? So this is Abraham, and speaking with the Most High, and the Most High is making a covenant with him, right? And so just break this whole thing down, right? Because you know what we do here, we're dispelling the lies of Christianity one by one, right? So, because we got to understand, this book is for us, and it's, and it's by us. This whole, everything from Genesis to Revelations is all about the people of Israel. And only time it talks about the other people is when we came in contact with them, But from Genesis to Revelation, the redemption is all for Israel, right? So let's start at 7. We are starting here because we kind of covered this before too. We kind of did a video on this before on who is salvation for, and the promise, right? So yeah, start at 7. Genesis chapter 17 and 7, and it says, so I will establish my covenant between me and thee. Talking to Abraham, right? It says, I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed, right? So, meaning his descendants, the people that come from him. He will establish his covenant with Abraham and his seeds, the people that, the people that will come from him, right? Then it says, and thy seed after thee in their generation, for a everlasting covenant, right? So this covenant that he's making with Abraham's seed, who we know to later on to be the Israelites, is an everlasting covenant, because they would make the argument, oh well, Israel was cut off because they rejected Christ and all that stuff, and which is not true, because not everybody rejected Christ, right? And we can prove that real quick. Just real quick. Hold on, hold on. Hold on. I'll find it. Find it like this. Hold on. I think it's in, where is it at? Bum, bum. The verse I was looking for is where the Pharisees was being jealous of Christ, and they were saying that they had to take him out because the whole world is beginning to follow him, and we know that he didn't leave out of Israel. So the whole world that they was talking about was the audience that he was preaching to within Israel, and he had a big following. I mean, because he fed 5,000 one time, right? He fed 2,000 another time, and all that stuff, right? So he had, a big following. So when they say like, well, they rejected Christ, it wasn't that they rejected Christ. The religious hierarchy rejected Christ, right? The people didn't. Let me see. I'm gonna find it. All right, well, I'll find it. I'll get back to the lesson. But, where we at? Boom, boom. And it says, in their generation for everlasting covenant to be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee, right? And that's what he said. He was going to be a God unto thee, and our seed after thee, right? So this is the promise he's making to Abraham, right? And then we can back that up with, just real quick, right here, Joel 2 and 27, where it says, and ye should know that I am in the midst of Israel, because the Israelites became the seed of Abraham, right? That was the chosen seed of Abraham. And it says, and you should know that I'm in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else. Just like how we read over here, it says, Um, and I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generation for an everlasting covenant to be a God unto thee and unto thy seed after thee. And like we read in Joel 2:27, and ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, like he told Abraham that he's going to be a God to them. Then it says, and I am the Lord your God, like he said, and none else, like he promised Abraham. He is the God unto Israel and none else. Then it says, and my people shall never be ashamed. So we should not be ashamed when we get this information, right? The Chinese is not ashamed about Buddha. The Indian people are not ashamed about Krishna and Shiva. So why should we be ashamed about our people, right? Our book, right? Hold on, should I like here? So, right? So it says, and I will establish my covenant between thee and thy seed and after thee in their generation for an everlasting covenant to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. I will give unto thee and thy seed after thee the land where then thou art a stranger, and all of the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God, right? Just like how we read in Joel 27. That's what he's telling Abraham, right? Then it says, let's jump down to 9. Let's go to 9. Then it says, and God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant. Therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. So not only Abraham, but then his descendant, then their descendants and their descendants should keep these covenants. All the way till we get to Moses. When we read about Moses bringing the Israelites out of Egypt and giving them the law again, and they coming into contract with the Most High, right? The covenant, right? They should keep it from generation to generation, right? It didn't say, well, after a while, you can, let some other people in with y'all, No, that's not what we're reading here, right? Then it says, after thee in their generation, this is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and thou seed after thee. Every man among you shall be circumcised, right? So, and this is, where like a lot of people get messed up at too. Because I had somebody, bring this point up to me the other day when it was trying to make the Abraham covenant argument for everybody. So it says, every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of a covenant betwixt me and you. So Abraham and his family members, had to, circumcise himself. The one, with Abraham. Then it says, and it says, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, for it shall be a token of a covenant betwixt me and you, right? So now the Israelites have to do the circumcision, because that's a token of, their covenant with the Most High. Then it says, and he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generation, right? So that's the key part where they interpret, right? Because they would, the Christianity would say like, yeah, see, because, if you circumcise, because then they'll put a little, Christianity, white supremacist spin on it by saying like, yeah, you got to be circumcised. Now we circumcised in the heart, so you know, so if you circumcised, then you counted as Abraham's seed, right? All that stuff, right? But this is the part they're missing out. It says, and he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generation, meaning your lineage, your children, your grandchildren, your grandchildren, all that, right? So all the children born in you should be circumcised, right? That's what it's saying, right? Then it says, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed, right? So now this part, right? But you gotta understand, Abraham was a rich man also. Abraham had servants, right? He had servants, he had slaves. So his property, he circumcised also, right? It's just like, because it doesn't, and because people say, well, yeah, that makes them get the covenant because they got certain, because, they got certain, was told to circumcise his servants and all that stuff too, right? Well, here's the thing, right? Because we've been here in America for about a bunch of years, right? Didn't they, when they brought us over here, didn't they force us to be Christian, right? Didn't they make us follow their religions, right? Long as we was on a plantation, long as we singing those little gospel songs we made up on the fly, it was cool, right? Right? They was cool with that. So that's the same thing, right? The Abraham servants is being made to follow the ways that Abraham is following, right? And that's part of the law. A lot of people act like the law came into existence with Moses, but the law always been around since Adam, right? That's a whole nother story. But that's part of the law. Like, whoever's in your household, they have to keep the laws of God, right? And that's part of the law. Because you can't just have lawlessness, you keeping a law, then this person doing this, then, that's going to affect your family members. Then they're like, well, this person don't got to do it. Why I got to do it? So then, that's why the Bible, the law says one law for the Israelite and for the stranger, right? Paraphrasing, right? But they make it seem like that means it's a equality thing, right? America has a law. They have their laws, right? Their constitution. Everybody in America, every citizen in America has to follow those laws, right? If not, you go to jail or whatever the case, whatever the infraction may be, right? So it's the same difference when the laws of God is the constitution of Israel. So whoever is in our land, they have to keep the law. Just like if you come to America, you have to keep the law, right? Or you go to any country that got laws, you have to keep their laws, right? So it doesn't make them equal to the, because it's a lot of, that's the case. It won't be immigration stuff on TV, on the news all day long. If they're just, if they're following the laws and so that makes them equal, if that's the case, they won't be deporting people. If just keeping the laws of the land make you equal, right? That's not how this works, right? And it says, and he that is born of the house is brought with money of the stranger, which is not thy seed, right? So, like I said, so, everybody got to get circumcised, right? Oh, no, what is this? And it says, All right, let me go to 13. Then it says, wait. Okay, yeah, no, we can read this. All right, let's go to 28 real quick before we go to 13. So let's go to 28 and 12, right? So this is Jacob, right? And you know, we all familiar with Jacob's ladder, right? So it says, and he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on earth, and the top of it reached heaven, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it, right? So he's looking into, for lack of better terms, right, in his dream he having, he's seeing the spirit world, right? Well, not really the spirit world, but he's seeing like the angels, you know, just moving to and fro from the earth, you know, because angels are everywhere. They go all around the earth, recording what they see, reporting back to God, right? So that's what technically what he's saying, right? In this dream that he's seeing, right? He's seeing the angels doing their work, technically. And then it says, and behold, the Lord stood above and said, I am Yahweh God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Isaac, the land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed, right? So this is God talking to Jacob, right? And it says, and thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, right? So we got to ask ourselves a question. Is God a liar, right? You know, because some people say, well, the nation of Israel don't exist anymore. You know, they're not, you know, that's not God's people anymore. You know, the nation of Israel some people say the nation of Israel got dissolved, right? But he said this, and thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south, and to thee thy seed shall all thy families of the earth be blessed, right? So we're gonna be everywhere, right? We're gonna be, it's a lot of us, right? You know, and so we're not, you know, gone away extinct, right? You know, when you read about this Bible and these nations that's in this Bible, these people are still here today. These nations that we read about, the Romans are still being the Romans. They call themselves Americans now, right? You know, the Ishmael is still being Ishmael. They call themselves Arabs now, right? They're still here. Moab is still being Moab. They call Chinese now, right? All these nations are still here, right? So we're still here. Because like the Bible says, there's no end of all people. Because we all connected, you know, from umbilical cord to umbilical cord. Sea line to sea line, right? So, and it says, and in thee, and in thy seed shall all families of the earth be blessed, right? So now people be like, oh, see, well, yeah, all families of the earth will be blessed, right? And, you know, so they take that as, you know, them being part of the covenant, right? They're going to be blessed because we're going to be teaching them about the true living God. They're not going to be following these false religions that they're following now. When Christ come back and set up his kingdom and the Israelites is ruling, we're going to be teaching the nations the correct way how to do these things, right? That's why they're going to be blessed, because they're going to be serving us. And if they don't serve us, they will perish, like we read in Isaiah 66, right? And we can get that if we need to. So that's why they're going to be blessed. because anyway, but yeah, we'll get to it. I don't want to jump the gun. Then it says, and behold, I am thee, and I will keep thee in all places, rather thou go and bring thee again into the land, for I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken unto thee, spoken thee of. Right? Sound like a promise to me, right? Sound like a promise. And we know God is not a promise breaker. Then let's get back over here. Back to 17 real quick. Then it says, back to 13, 17 and 13. Then it says, he that is born in thy house, and that is brought with thy money, must need to be circumcised, and my covenant shall be. Now see, now this is the part right here, right? This the part. This the dagger. This is the dagger. This is the cut, right? Because, you know, they would, all the way up until that point, they would try to make the argument that, everybody else can come in, long as they, follow the God of Abraham, right? But here's the thing. It says this. He that is born in thy house, and he that is brought with thy money, must need be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh. Who is in your flesh? Your family members, your descendants, your brethren, your people, right? That is your flesh, right? Your kinfolk. So when it says, my covenant shall be in your flesh for everlasting covenant. Then it says, so that's the part. So like I said, so although he's asking Abraham to circumcise his whole household and his servants too, but the covenant is still with his flesh, his descendants, right? And let's get let's jump down. Shall we? Then it says, all right, 14. Then it says, in the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He that broken my covenant, right? So that, like I said, if you're familiar with the law, the Israelites, if you're not circumcised on the 8th day, you will be cut off, right, from being from your citizenship, your nationhood of being an Israelite, right? And that only applies to the people of Israel. That cannot be for everybody, because God laws doesn't apply to everybody, because He only gave it to Moses, right? Then it says, then let me see, then. All right, let's jump down to 16. It says, I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yeah, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations, right? Kings of people shall be of her, right? So there's another point where people get thrown off at. They say, well, yeah, because they say, yeah, this is talking about everybody, because she's gonna be mother of nations, right? But let's see who these nations are, right? Let's see who these kings are, right? Let's get Revelation real quick. Let's get Revelation. Let's get Revelation 1 and 6. Revelation 1 and 6 says, right here, it says, And he had made us kings and priests unto Yahweh his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. So that's who the kings and the priests is, the Israelites. Because he had made us kings and priests unto God his Father. To him be the glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Right? Let's get 5 and 10. So Revelation 5 and 10 says, and has made unto us our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. So this is who's, when it says that she should be mother of kings and priests, talking about the Israelites, because we are a nation of kings and priests, right? Let's get 1 Peter real quick. First Peter says 2 and 9. First Peter 2 and 9 says, but ye are a chosen generation, right? Talking about the Israelites, right? Talking about this is Peter talking to them. It says, ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. That's us. We are a royal priesthood because he gave us the priesthood, right? Through the order of Melchizedek, right? Then it says, a holy nation. We are that holy nation, right? And we can prove that. Then it says, a peculiar people, ye should show forth the praise of him whom have called you out of darkness of his marvelous light, which in past times were not a people, but are now the people of God. Because we at first we was not a people, right? We're not a people now, right? We're separated, we're divided. But it's going to come to a point in time where we're going to unite. And we're going to understand that we are the people of God. And we're going to unite under that. Right? And then in that day, it says that, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God. In that day, we're going to be known as the people of God. Right? Then it says, which had not obtained mercy. Because we had not had mercy. Our people had not had mercy. Right? Because if this is salvation for everybody, this covenant is for everybody, our people have not had mercy, right? So, especially on this side of the world, right? They dealt with us very, very harshly, right? So this is for people who have never received mercy, right? It's people right now that know the history of America and us here, and nothing never ever been done about it. And it's a lot of people that's at the point where, like, look, ain't nothing happened and ain't nothing gonna happen, right? A lot of people feel like that, right? That's abandoning justice, right? They just gave up hope on justice. They gave up hope, of just getting any type of restitution, right? So it says, which had not obtained mercy, because we have not obtained mercy, because we don't get the mercy that everybody else get, right? And it says, but now have obtained mercy. So now we get that mercy, though, right? Now we get it, right? Because why we get it? Why we get it? Let's go here. Let's go to Isaiah 14. And it says, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers should be joined with them, and they should cleave to the house of Jacob. Right? So he's going to have mercy on Israel, and yet choose us. And yeah, it mentioned the strangers, the people from the other nations, what we would call the Gentiles, right? But then just see what it says about them. It says, and the people should take them. We're going to take those strangers that's cleaving to the house of Jacob, right? That's begging, that's clinging on to us, that's, needing us for everything, right? Or depending on us, right? Then it says, and the people should take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them. We're going to possess them. So that can't be salvation for all and a covenant for all, because all these other nations are going to get possessed by the Israelites, right? That's what it says here. That's what we're reading. So it says, and the people should take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel should possess them in the land of the Lord for servants, for slaves, and handmaids, and slave women. And they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Right? How can this be a covenant for all or salvation for all if this verse is here? And if Isaiah is a true prophet, and I love Isaiah. Isaiah is one of my guys. He's one of my favorite prophets. Right? I love him. So I would hate for this not be true. Right? And I don't want to, and I would hate for somebody to think that Isaiah is a false prophet, because he's not a false prophet, right? And God is not a liar, right? And it says, and I will bless her and give thee also sons of her. Yeah, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her, right? That's how it, and that's what's up. Then just jump down to 19. Then it says, and God said, Sarah, thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him. So, because that's important, because Abraham had like 8 sons altogether, right? Although we talk about Isaac and Ishmael, but he had 8 sons altogether, right? And all those 8 sons respectively became different nations and stuff. We kind of mentioned one in one of our lessons we did when we was talking about color in the Bible, right? So you had more than but it says he had more than more than those 2 sons. He had 8 altogether. So it says, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. Right? So the same covenant he just had with Abraham, he's going to give it now to Isaac. After Abraham has passed away, it goes to Isaac and to his seed, right? So it never said, Abraham, after you die, this covenant I made with you is going to open up to the whole wide world, all nations of people, hand in hand, black girls and white girls, and we all holding hands and singing free at last. None of that stuff, right? It never said that, right? Right? But it does says that it's for Isaac. Then let's go to 18, Genesis 18 and 8. And it says, and he took butter and oil and calf which he had dressed, and set it before them, and he stood before them under the tree, and they did eat. And he said unto him, where is Sarah thy wife? Behold, Hold on. So now he's talking. All right, yeah, we can read this, but so it says and they said unto him, where's Sarah thy wife? And he said, behold, in a tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in a tent which was behind them. And now Abraham and Sarah were old, and were stricken in age, and at and at cease of and ceased to be with Sarah after a manner of a woman. So she was a little older. So then it got to a point where he stopped. I guess they stopped doing the do because a little older, right? I guess, right? Then it says after, therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, "After I am waxed old, shall I have a pleasure, my Lord being old also." So and the Lord said unto Abraham, "Therefore did Sarah laugh, saying, I shall surely bear a child with an old man. Is nothing too hard for Yahweh," right? So so telling Sarah she's gonna have this son. So now this son is who we know to be Isaac, right? Because he had Ishmael with Hagar, right? The Egyptian woman, right? And so let's go. Let's go. Alright, we don't need that one. Alright, we can read this. So let's go to Genesis 25 and 20. Let's start at 29. I'm sorry. Let's start at Genesis 25 and 19. And it says, "After these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begat Isaac," right? So now, because the covenant was passed to Isaac, right? Then it says Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, his wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Caesarian of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban of Assyrian, the Assyrian, right? And it says, "And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived." Right? So basically, Jacob, asked, prayed to have a baby. And God said, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to allow you to have a baby," right? And when the children struggled together within her, she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the Lord. So now she's pregnant, but she's having what they would call what we call like a bad pregnancy. She's having like pregnancy pains and stuff, right? And her, so she wanted to see why her stomach is hurting so bad. What's going on, right? Then it says, "And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, 2 manner of people should be separated from thy bowels. And one people should be stronger than the other, and the elder should serve the younger," right? So, and we know that Esau came out first, right? And it says the elder should serve the younger, right? Then it says, and when her days were to be fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And Esau, we all know today, right? We ain't gonna get all into it, because it ain't about it. But Esau is the so-called Caucasian today, right? The so-called white man today, right? And then it says, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, took hold of the hill of Esau, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac, 60 old when she buried them, right? So like I said, so Jacob and Esau, right, comes out. Then so it says, "And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man." Because we know how them you know, how they like to be. You know, they wild people like to go hunting and be out in the outdoors and skydive and, you know, climb Mount Everest, right? And we just like to chill, right? Just sit around, barbecue, relax. You know, we did that today. We barbecued today, right? Just relax, right? That's what we do, you know. Then it says, and the boys grew. Okay, then jump down here saying, Isaac loved, it says, and Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of the vintage, but Rebecca loved Jacob, right? You know, because, you know, Jacob was a mama's boy, I guess, you can probably say. But then again, Esau was a little disgusting thing, you know. So it's kind of hard for the mother to love him anyway, right? So daddy just trying to be nice. But no, I'm just joking though. But seriously though, so and Jacob stopped pottage, and Esau came from the field and was faint. And Esau said unto Jacob, Feed me, I pray. I pray thee with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore, his name became Edom, right? And that's what I was telling somebody too, because like although white people are red, right? They're red. You know, they call themselves red. You know, they call themselves rednecks in the South. But when it says that he came out like a hairy, red all over like a hairy garment, it's not that he was like hairy and red, even though he is hairy, but it was just letting you know how much of red, like how covered he was in red, right? Because and how, you know, how hairy he was too. Then it says and they called his name Edom, because Edom too means, you know, red. And then it says, and Jacob said, sell me thy birthright, right? So now this is the point right here. So we read all of that to get to this point, right? So now we're going to backtrack a little bit. And it says, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb. This is 23. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb. 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger, right? So it's already prophesied that Jacob was going to get the birthright, and he's going to be the chosen one. Because because, you know, according, you know how twins work, you know, if you have twins, whatever twin come out first, he's the oldest, right? Then the next one is considered the youngest, right? So we came out second, right? So we are considered the youngest. And it said right here that the elder should serve the younger. So it's going to come upon a time where they're going to have to serve us, right? And they did before under King David and Solomon. But they're going to have a perpetual servitude coming up for them, right? Then it says, so jump back down. So it says, and Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do unto me? So Jacob, you know, that's his name, supplanter. That's what the name Jacob means, right? So Jacob, you know, saw that Esau was kind of like on the verge of death. He was like really starving and hungry. Like, all right, well, if you're really hungry, you know, sell me that birthright then. Let me get all the rights of the eldest child, right? Then you can have this food. So then Esau like, fine, you can have it, because I'm hungry. I just want something to eat, right? And I doubt that the man was about to die, you know, because white people be so dramatic anyway. You know, so I doubt that the man was about to die, because the man's a hunter, you know. He was just having a bad day. You know, he probably couldn't find no food that day. He been out all hours, you know, and he tired, right? So he sold his whole everything. Not that God was going to let him rule this whole everything. But just to say that God, just to say that God didn't promise it to me, I mean, not to me, well, it didn't promise it to the Israelites or to the Edomites, right? It was just, whoever came out first, right? Like how it go. But that's even so, they still sold their birthright at the end of the day, right? Even if even if God was going to deal with them, they sold it to us, right? Because they were hungry. So he said. So it says, and Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do me?" And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. So we got the covenant, right? So although it was already prophesied through our mother Rebecca, right? But it played out in a 3D world, through Esau selling his birthright to us, right? Although the Most High said that we will get it, and and it's with us, right? So so we gotta understand that's an important point. That's why I brought us here, right? So the Israelites had the covenant. So Jacob had the covenant, right? It's let's go to 27 and 27. So now this is Jacob, coming to, cause now Isaac is about to pass away, so he's giving out the blessing, right? To his sons, right? And so now Isaac was, he's thinking that he's gonna give the oldest all the heir to everything, right? Because that's the tradition. So, and now Jacob's mother is aware of this, so she like, and then she also know the promise that God told her. So she was like, well, no, we can't have that go down like that, right? So then she devised a plan for Jacob to disguise himself as Esau, and because Isaac, he's got poor sight, he's gone blind, so so he did, so she was like, yeah, pretend you're your brother, and so you can get the blessing, right? So I'm paraphrasing, because we jumping right into it from here in verse 27. So it says, and he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, see the smell of my son. Is this the smell of the field which the Lord hath blessed? Therefore God gave thee the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine, right? So, the land of Israel, right? The land of Canaan is that, fatness, that the land, the corn and wine, right? And then all the best places on earth, because this whole dominion, this whole earth belongs to us, right? Because like we read in 2nd Ezra 6 and 54, this whole, everything belongs to us, right? Then it says, therefore God give thee the dew of heaven, and the fatness of earth, and the plenty of corn, right? And wine, right? Let's read it in the GNT real quick, right? Let's get it over here. Let's see how it reads over here. Let's read it right over here really quick. And it reads right over here. And it says, and then he kissed his father and said, come closer and kiss me, son. And he came and kissed him. Isaac smelled his clothes, so he gave him he gave him his blessing. And he said, the pleasant smell of my son is like the smell of the field, which the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew from heaven and make your field fertile, and may he give you plenty of grain and wine, and may nations be your servants, right? That's the blessing that we're getting. May the nations be our servants. So how could this be a covenant for everybody if the blessing for Jacob, his descendants, is for the nations to be our servants? And we just read in Isaiah 14 that the Israelites is going to take all the nations captive, right? And rule over their oppressors. So Christianity got it wrong. Like how they say, you got it wrong, essay, right? They got it wrong, right? We gotta make sense of this, right? So it says, may God give you the dew of heaven, the dew of heaven, and make your fields fertile, and may He give you plenty of grain and wine. May the nations be your servants, and may people bow down before you. May you rule over your relatives. So, because again, Abraham had more than Isaac and Ishmael. He had 8 other sons. Then also Esau is a relative of us, right? You know, whether we like it or not. And it says may rule over your relatives, and may your mother's descendants bow down before you. May those who curse you be cursed, and may those who bless you be blessed. Right. So the covenant, the blessing is that all the nations is gonna have to bow down to us. Right. All the nations will have to serve us. Right. And we read about that in many places, and we're going to probably get to all that, right? Then it says, and those who curse you will be cursed, and may those who bless you will be blessed, right? So now, if you read this Bible, I tell people all this time, excuse me, you read this Bible. If you're familiar with the history of the Bible, the other nations never blessed the Israelites. They always cursed the Israelites. They always enslaved the Israelites. They always made war with the Israelites, right? So if we're going to say God is a man of his word, this is a condition, right? This is a covenant on contingency, because this is another point where the Christian church will try to wiggle their way in and try to say this is for everybody. But this is a contingency, though. If you're familiar with contracts and how contracts work, you know, they have contingencies in them, you know, some of them, right? So the contingency is this, right here. The contingency is, if they bless you, they will be blessed. If they curse you, they'll be cursed, right? So they have to do something. They have to actively be blessing the Israelites so they can receive that blessing, right? But when you read the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, they didn't do that. They fought against the Israelites every chance they got, right? So they're not going to get the blessing. They're going to get the curse, right? Like we read in Deuteronomy 30, right? So, what else we got? Then it says, and may the nations be your servants, and may people bow down before you. May you rule over your relatives, and may your mother's descendants bow down before you. May those who curse you be cursed, and may those who bless you be blessed, right? And that's what's happening, right? And just get Deuteronomy 28. Because, like, this can't be for everybody if God is saying these things. Or else we got to call God a liar. And I don't think people are willing to, I mean, maybe you are. I don't know. Maybe you are willing to call God a liar. I don't know. But we're reading the Bible, right? I'm reading out of the KJV. I got the Good News translation right here, right? And I got whatever other translation we need right here, right? So, are we going to call God a liar? I hope not. Deuteronomy 28:1, right? So this is a promise, a covenant that God is making with the people, right? The people of who? Israel. Just prove this, right? Just prove who God is talking to. Because a lot of people act like this book is so universal. This is such a universal thing. It's not. This is who is talking to, right? Deuteronomy 1:1. These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel. Who's this whole thing is about right here? These be the words that Moses spake unto all Israel. It didn't say these be the words that Moses was speaking to the whole nations of the world, to everybody on the planet. No, it says these be the words that Moses spake to all Israel. This is Deuteronomy 1:1. This is important, right? So that means everything after this is only for the nation of Israel, right? That's how we keep things in context. So that means from this point on, everything we read is only for the people of Israel. We can't fit anybody else in it. Because if we could, it would have said it right here. Right? Because this is where we get the context of what's contained in this book, who is referring to, right? Because every book that's written has an audience, right? That's why there's such thing as a library, because it's a place for books. Because people go to the library and then they find a certain book that they're looking for. Not everybody go to that same book, because every book has an audience, right? And this audience is the Israelites right here. It says, these be the words that Moses spake unto all Israel, right? So back over here. So 28:1. And it shall come to pass that thou hearken diligently and listen to the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments which I command thee this day. The Lord thy God will set thee above high, above all nations. Right? That is on the earth, right? That is on the earth, right? So that's God's promise, to set us above all nations that are on the earth, right? Just get that over here too. Deuteronomy 7:6 says, For thou art a holy people, right? We read that in 2 Peter 2:9. That's the New Testament. Because I know some people will say, well, you're reading the Old Testament. But we read a few verses out of the New Testament. And guess what? We're going to go back to the New Testament too. Right? Because this whole book is about us. It's not section off, like once you get to the New Testament, it's talking about everybody. No, it's not. Same thing. Right? Never changed. It says, For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself. So God had chosen the Israelites to be a special people unto himself. Right? Where did he put us? Right? After he chose us, where did he take us? Unto himself, above all people. Where did God put us? Above all people. So while we in these streets talking about no justice, no peace, we want equality, civil rights, equal rights, all that stuff. But God says this: we are above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Right? That's what he said. Right? Back over here. And it says, let's get Exodus 3 and 10 real quick before we go back over here. Exodus 3 and 10 says, Come now, therefore, I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Right? So God's people is the children of Israel. Right? We got to understand that. So when he says that I separate thee and made you a special people unto myself above all people, he's talking to us, the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people. We gotta understand that, right? We gotta understand that. We gotta feel that, right? And it says, all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shall be in the city, and blessed shall thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be the basket of thy store. Meaning we're going to be living wealthy, right? We're going to be having enough. We're going to have plenty, right? Right? Then it says, we're not going to, basically we're not going to we're not going to be in want of anything. It says, blessed thou shalt be when thou comest, and blessed when thou shalt be when thou goest. The Lord shall cause thy enemies to rise up against. The Lord shall cause thy enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee come out against thee one way, but flee before thee 7 ways. Right? So we keep reading. It goes into all the different promises that the Lord is going to do to the people of Israel. Right? So we have to ask ourselves, how can anybody else be fitting into this equation? And it says, and the Lord shall make thee, I'm jumping down to 13. And it says, and the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only. So how could we be equal to, or salvation is going to be equal to everybody else if the Bible says that we're going to be above only, right? And we just read Deuteronomy 7 and 6, where he already told us he separated us and made us special. That's why we're so cold at everything that we do, right? And he made us special above all people unto himself, right? That's what he said, right? So how could this whole stuff work in this equation, right? It doesn't, because we already read it. Those nations are going to have to serve the Israelites, right? It's not going to be a egalitarian society, right? It's not going to be like everybody just... No, it's going to be a utopia, yes. But it's going to be a hierarchy in that utopia, right? Then, boom, boom, boom. Then it says, where we at? Then it says, and the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to observe and do them. So all we have to do is keep these commandments as a people, and this is what God said He's going to do for us, right? This is the promise. This is the covenant, right? Then it says, and that thou shalt not go aside from any words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. So we don't follow after other gods to serve them. We keep the commandments. We do it. We follow this one God that God told us to follow, which is Him, right? That's our end of the deal, right? And then He's gonna keep His end of the deal, right? So let's go back a couple chapters, right? let's go to Deuteronomy 26, and let's start at 16, right? Because this is important, right? Because we got to understand this. Because this is where the whole covenant and contract with the Most High comes from. So we got to go to the beginning and see all this stuff, right? Deuteronomy 26 and 16 says this. So this is after God laid out the laws to us and told us what's up and told us, what it is. And so he like, all right, so y'all cool with it, right? This is the signing of the deal, right? So it says, this day the Lord thy God have commanded thee to do these statutes and judgments. Thou shalt therefore keep them with all thy heart and with all thy soul, right? So that's what we should be doing, keeping all these laws with all our heart and all our soul, right? And like it says right here, Deuteronomy 30 and 2, because this is what we got to do, right? And this is what we're doing in these last days. It says, and thou shalt return unto the Yahweh thy power, and shall obey his voice according to all I command thee this day. Because we're reading about the day that he's commanding us in 26. It says, all this, it says, all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, because we got to teach our children this too. We can't just let our kids just figure it out. We got to teach them. And it says, with all thy heart and with all thy soul. So we have to return back to the Most High God Yahweh with all our heart, all our soul. Because we promised right here, because we're reading when we said it, that we would do it. Right? And we're bound to this. This is a blood oath right here. Right? We're bound to this. And it says, this day, 26 and 16, Deuteronomy. This day the Lord thy God hath commanded thee to do these statutes and judgments. Thou shalt therefore keep them and do them in all thy heart and with all thy soul. Thou has vouched what we have did for the Most High God as a people. I know, and a lot of us might say, well, we wasn't back there 3,500 years ago. Yes, we was. God dang it, we was. Because like we already covered, our spirits regenerate. We die, we come back again, right? So yes, we was back then, and this is what we said, right? Thou hast vouched the Lord this day to be thy God, and to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice. Right? So we said, yes, we will keep your statutes and your commandments and your ways. That's what we would do. We said that, right? God is talking to the Israelites. He's not talking to the whole wide world, right? He's talking to the Israelites, because like we started off, before we got into it, because we ain't want no problems, we started off right here. It says, these be the words which Moses spake unto all. Oh. That's like you. Hold up. There we go, so like you. But yeah, it says, these be the words that Moses spake unto all of Israel, right? So that's who he's talking to. That's the audience, Israel, right? And it says, back over here. So it says, thou hast vouched the Lord this day to be thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice, right? We said we would do that, right? Then let's jump to 27 and 9 real quick. And it says, and Moses and the priest And the Levites spake unto all Israel, saying, Take heed and hearken, O Israel, not the whole world. He's talking to the Israelites. O Israel, this day that thou art become the people of the Lord thy God. Right? That's what happened to us. We became the people of the Lord thy God. When we said we vouch for the Most High God. We vouch that Yahweh is who he said he was, right? And we is his people, right? And we're going to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments. We said we was going to do that. And it says, Thou hast therefore obeyed the voice of Yahweh thy power, and do his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day. Right? So back over here. It says, This day the Lord thy God has commanded thee to do these statutes and commandments. Thou hast therefore keep and do them with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Thou hast vouched the Yahweh this day to be thy power. So we have said he's going to be our power. He's going to be the one that we follow. And to walk in his ways and to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and to hearken unto his voice. And Yahweh have vouched, and Yahweh has vouched. So not only did we agree, the Most High God agreed. Let's see what he has vouched. And a vouching, we all know what vouching is, right? And it says, to give your word, to make a promise, right? And it says, And the Lord has vouched thee this day to be a peculiar people, as he promised thee that thou should keep his commandments this day, right? Keep his commandments, right? It says, And the Lord hath vouched thee this day to be a peculiar people, because we're very peculiar, we're very special, we're very all that, right? As a people, right? Then it says, As he had promised thee, and thou should keep all his commandments, right? So he's vouching that, like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna be y'all God, and y'all already said that y'all gonna keep my commandments, right? I don't know what about you. Let me write this down. Gotta get on my AV department. But right, it's like it. So he says, And the Lord has vouched thee this day to be a peculiar people, as he had promised thee, and thou should keep all his commandments, and to make thee high above all nations which thou hast made, and praise in the name and honor, and that thou mayest be a holy people unto the Lord thy God, as he has spoken it, right? So he like, look, okay, y'all promised to be my people, y'all gonna keep my laws, statutes, and commandments, and I'm gonna be your God. I'm gonna make you a special, peculiar people, and I'm gonna be your God. That's what he said. He didn't say that for everybody else, right? You would not read where God is speaking to a nation of people and telling them that he's gonna be their God. But you can read that with us, like we read in Joel 2:27. I am your God and your God only, right? So yeah, let's get this real quick. Make this really, really quick. Let's get Romans. Let's go to Romans real quick. Let's go to the New Testament real quick. So let's start at Romans 1:9-1, right? It says, "And I say the truth in Christ, I lie not. My conscience also bear me witness in the Holy Ghost." So this is Paul speaking, right? So he's saying he's in the spirit of the Holy Ghost right now, the Holy Spirit right now, right? So the Holy Spirit is moving him to speak. So surely Paul is not lying on the stuff he's about to say. Because the Holy Spirit is on, right? And it says that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I wish I could myself be accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. Right? So Paul saying that he wished he could have did the same thing that Christ did for the Israelites. Then it says, "Who are Israelites?" So he let you know who that flesh he's talking about. It says, "According to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption," right? Because they'll talk about the adoption. And it says the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the services and the promises, right? So all that belongs to the Israelites. It doesn't say anybody else. This is Paul, New Testament Paul, right? Who everybody says that was going out to the other nations, right? But if Paul was teaching other people in other nations, why is he telling us that who are Israelites, to whom pertain the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the services of God and the promises, right? So it can't be what Pastor is telling us, that Paul was teaching everybody, right? It sure heck don't seem like it here. Let's get Isaiah. Let's get Isaiah 59 real quick. So Isaiah 59 says, "As for me, this is my covenant with them, said Yahweh. My spirit is upon thee, and my words I put in thy mouth shall not depart out of thy mouth, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, said Yahweh, from henceforth and forever." Right? So this is God talking to the Israelites. And this sounds a lot like the new covenant that we read about in Hebrews 8:8 and Jeremiah 31:31. Right? And if you don't believe it, just go get it real quick, because we got time. So Hebrews, let's go with Hebrews first. It says, "For finding fault with them," and we know the them is the Israelites, because we went through this before. It says, "For finding fault with them, he said, Behold, the days come, said Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah." Right? So, going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not according to the new covenant, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them out by the hand and led them out of the land of Egypt, right? So, and so then it says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day that I took them out of the land, out by the hand and led them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, said Yahweh. So we see that the covenant is for the Israelites. This is what he's talking about right here. When we get it over here again, hold on. It says, "As for me, my covenant is with them." So that's the them, the Israelites. "My spirit is upon thee, and my word which I have put in thy mouth should not depart out of thy mouth, out of thy mouth, thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed. Just like how it says here, for the new covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days. And it said Yahweh, I will put my laws into their mind and write them on their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be a people. Right? So then it says, and they should not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother shall saying, know the Lord, for all should know me from least to greatest, because he's gonna write the laws on our hearts and on our children's heart and their children's hearts, right? Like we're reading. He's only gonna do that for the people of Israel, not everybody. Right? And this is New Testament. This is Hebrews right here. Right? So we got a Old Testament right here and New Testament right here, and it's saying the same thing. Right? So again, Pastor lied. Right? What else? Oh yeah, let's get Isaiah. Let's get this one. I didn't find it over here. Let me get it. And then where are we at? Yeah, get it right. So Isaiah 66 and 23, right? And it says, and it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, from one Sabbath to another, all flesh shall come and worship before me, said Yahweh. They go forth and look upon the carcass. Hold on. Okay, no, this is where I want to go here first. Then we go there. Go to Zechariah first. It was something like that. So yeah, Zechariah, start right here. Zechariah. Right here. So it says, start at 16. It says, and it shall come to pass, everyone that is left of all the nations which come against Jerusalem, because they're going to try to attack the people. They're going to try to attack us, right? They're going to try to attack the Most High Son, Christ, who people call Jesus, right? They're going to do that. So, and then after they get their butt kicked, the ones that survive after that, right? So again, it can't be salvation for all or whoever, because the armies of the world is going to fight against Christ, right? People forget about that. Then it says, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all nations which come against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King and the Lord of hosts, and to keep the feast of tabernacle, right? So, like I said, they're going to be keeping our laws by force, right? Like how we were explaining when he said that, told Abraham to circumcise everybody in his household, his servants and everybody. So, it's not that, and then as we kept reading, we see that the covenant wasn't for them, it was for Abraham's seed, but the Most High wanted them to be circumcised also in that household because they have to keep the law. You know, whoever's in your household got to follow the rules, right? That's how it goes. But here it says, and it shall come to pass, everyone that's left of the nations would come against Jerusalem, what came against Jerusalem shall even go from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, to keep the Feast of Tabernacle, right? And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King. So after we done whoop their butt, you know, put them in subjugation, so then one of these nations want to be tough and don't want to come and worship the Yahweh Shai and our God Yahweh, what's going to happen? Come to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, upon them shall be no rain. So then he's going to cause a massive drought in their nation, right? And what happens when a nation doesn't receive rain for a while, right? Food begins to die, right? Crops begins to die, right? You know, animals begin to die, you know, right? When there's no water, right? Because you need water for life, right? Water plays a big part of the food chain, right? And he said if they don't celebrate what we tell them to celebrate, come to Jerusalem when we tell them to come to Jerusalem, it says it should be no rain, right? Let's get Isaiah 66 and 22. So Isaiah 66 and 22 says, and as for the new heavens and the new earth which I will make shall remain before me, said Yahweh. So your seed in your name, so your seed in your name remain, and it shall come to pass that from the new moon to another, from one Sabbath to another, all flesh come to worship before me, said the Lord. But we already saw that those other nations are going to be in subjugation, and if they don't come, they're going to die, right? Then it says, all flesh shall come and worship me before the Lord. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcass of men that have transgressed against me. So on their way marching to celebrate, you know, what we told them to celebrate, they're going to see all those other nations that thought they was tough and thought they can rise up against Yahweh. And they're going to have to walk past that and be like, yeah, we don't want no smoke with these people. So we're going to do what they say do, right? And they shall go forth and look upon the carcass of the men that have transgressed against me, for the worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be a whoring unto all flesh. Meaning, we're going to look at these people like these stupid people. Like, how dumb would they, you know, how dumb are they that they thought they can box with God, right? We're going to look at them dumb, like that, right? So, we got to understand how this thing called salvation really works, because we don't understand that this book is only for us, and it's only through lies and propagation that we were told that this book is a universal book, right? Let's get Isaiah 60 real quick. Isaiah 60 says, arise, Jerusalem, and shine the sun. The glory of Yahweh is shining on you. The other nations will be covered by darkness. Because, again, this is after World War III, Armageddon, all that stuff. You know, so we're gonna be shining because we're gonna have the knowledge and wisdom. We're gonna be living, you know, we're gonna be straight, right? And the other nations are gonna be living in darkness. You know, it's gonna be like, you know, anarchy for them, right? Then it says, but you, the light of Yahweh will shine. the brightness of his presence will be with you. Nations will draw to your light. And that's the thing, because all these nations are going to come to our light, meaning our wisdom, our knowledge. They're going to want to, they're going to follow our ways, right? They're going to learn. They're going to learn from us, right? Then it says, and the kings to the drawing of your new day. Look around you and see what's happening. Your people are gathering, coming home, right? And that's what's happening, and what else is going to happen in that day? We're going to be all gathered, right? It says, your daughters will be carried like children, and you will see this and be filled with joy, and you will tremble with excitement, and wealth of the nations will be brought to you. So all the nations will be paying tribute to us, giving us all their everything, right? Then it says, across the sea, their riches will come. Great caravans of camels will come from Midian and Ephah. They will come from Sheba, bringing gold and incense. People will tell the good news of what the Lord has done. All the sheep of Kedar and Nehaboth will be brought to you as sacrifices, and offer of the altar to please the Lord. The Lord will make his temple more glorious than ever. With these ships, the skim along the clouds, the doves. Hold on, let's jump down here though. That's the point. The Lord says, Jerusalem foreigners will rebuild your walls. So just like we read in Isaiah chapter 14, where it says that we should take them captives who captives we were and bring them back to, our place. It's telling us here the foreigners will rebuild your walls. So when we take them captive, this is what they're going to be doing. They're going to be building up our city, right? It says, the foreigners will build up your walls, and their kings will serve you. In my anger, I punish you, but now I will show you favor and mercy. So God was like, yeah, I know I kind of jacked y'all up when y'all, went off. Y'all broke my laws. I punished y'all. But now, punishment time over it. And now I'm gonna punish these other nations. And then, I'm going to make them pay you tribute, right? It says, day and night your gates will be open, so the kings of the nations may bring you their wealth. But nations that do not serve you, right? Just like we read in Zechariah, it says this: but nations that do not serve you will be completely destroyed, right? So God would destroy these other nations if they don't get down with the program, which is serving the Israelites, as we serve Christ, as he served the Most High God, right? So it's the salvation for everybody, and we all going to be on an even playing field. It doesn't seem like that in this Bible, because it's seeming like, to me, we're reading a hierarchy here, that the Israelites is going to be above all, and everybody got to get down and lay down, right? That's what it's reading like to me, right? So, and that's what it says. It says, the Lord says, Jerusalem, foreigners will build your walls, and their kings will serve you. In my anger I punish you, but now I will show you my favor and mercy. Day and night your gates will be open, so that the kings of the nations may bring you their wealth. So they're going to bring us their wealth. They're going to be paying tribute to us every day, all day long. As soon as they make it, we're going to take it, right? Just how they do to us. As soon as we make our paycheck, here they come taking it. Through bills, rent, car payments, all that stuff. They take it, right? It's going to be the same way for them. And it says, so that the kings of the nations may bring you their wealth, but the nation that do not serve you will be completely destroyed, right? The wood of the pines, of the jumpers, and the cypress Right? So, yeah, so they're going to be completely destroyed if they don't serve us. So, how could this be a salvation for all if this is in the Bible? Right? If they have to serve us and, and if they don't, they will be destroyed for it. Right? And like this, last verse, we're going to get out of here. Revelation 2:26 says, and he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. So he's talking about giving the Israelites power over the nations. So how is this going to be everybody getting along type of thing if it's a hierarchy? It's a hierarchy here, right? And that's what we got to understand. And we read several verses to prove that it's a hierarchy. So it's not salvation for all, the covenants for all, because as we can see, it's only for the people of Israel, right? And so, of course, I hope that was fine, right? And I hope that was edifying, because, we got to understand, that this book is definitely for us, right? And it's not a universal thing. The covenant is only for us, like we read, right? I didn't even get into the wild olive branches and all that, but we'll cover that too another time.
To use this feature, please make sure your app is running and can access the internet.
But yeah, of course, I want to say shalom and all that cool stuff. And, right, so, but yeah, before we close out though,
the rebuilding of a nation.
Before we close out, like I said, so this book is only for us, right? Covenant is for us, all that, right? And because like the Bible in a nutshell, right? The Bible in a nutshell. Bible is about the children of Israel, right? Their rise and fall, right? Because we can go back to Genesis, right? We can go to Genesis and start from the Adamites. From the Adamites were the prototype Israelites, right? And so then, of course, the Adamites failed, right? Because they were supposed to, rule the planet and under the structure of the Most High God, right? So they failed, but through that seed line, later on came Abraham, right? Then he chose Abraham, right? And then Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So that was the plan, because God always dealt with a group of people, like a certain group of people. When it started off, it was the Adamites. And then after the Adamites, it was the people of Seth, right? Then after the people of Seth, it was then it became the people of Shem, right? The people of Shem, the Semitic people. Then after that, it came Abraham, right? Then Isaac, then Jacob, until all the way to get to us, right? The Israelites, right? And the thing is, it's all about the rise and fall and redemption of the Israelites. And we getting redeemed through the return of our King, who the world calls Jesus Christ, whose real name is the Mashiach Yahushai, right? So when he comes back and save us, it's almost like this. Think of the movie Lion King, the first Lion King, right? When Simba left, right, we can kind of liken that to the death of Mufasa and when Simba, left and he had to come back. So then when Simba came back, he restored the kingdom and everything was great. So basically, that's the story of Israel. The fall, the rise, the redemption, right? So that's what the Bible's about. Nothing else. And how God's plan to bring us back to him, right? And And that's it. And so that, you know, that's what we got. Like, so yeah. So with that, I'm gonna say shalom, peace. Hopefully that was edifying. We know that we are the people of God, the true Israel, the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, right? So I'm gonna say shalom, peace. We out. Till next time.
I ain't really wanna be moving when there's more time. Niggas love the clout chase, that's the shit they glorify. I don't even try hard, this gangsta shit immortalized. No records of a trace, when your crime is organized. No man is over me, I'm highest in the morning time. Low key in the birds when I'm crossing state borderlines. Swing your black or horrified, fuck you bitch, you mortified. I'm standing where you draw the line, nigga hold the line. My nutsack, I'm grabbing mine, open mine, quit holding mine. You gon' get this work and some overtime, you know the vibe. Little nigga, you notice me. I don't need them to notice me. When conflict get crucial, I can't help but do it bogusly. Smoke you like the stove for you, beat you like the stove for me. Niggas out of body, put you back where you supposed to be. I shoot at you waking in the moment, niggas toast for you. My niggas do the most for me. That's what they supposed to. I want all the smoke, nigga. Cut the shit you think bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, just bustin'. You know how I'm coming, if you came with me. You know what's going, stop playing with me. I want all the smoke, nigga. Cut the shit you think bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, just bustin'. You know how I'm coming, if you came with me. Gang, you know what's going, stop playing with me. Real gangsters move critically. When that shit get critical, no peace amongst enemies, no pity for the pitiful. Real nigga down to the bones and the minerals. Stick to the G code, I never told another soul. True to the literature, now salute the general. Kill you on your birthday, then slide on your funeral. It ain't about the clout chase, I'm a man of principle. Niggas out of body, now they body isn't critical. Cradle to the casket, the life we live is typical. God body, cause I will depart you from your physical. Niggas living fantasies, act like they was the only one. Don't talk to me about these streets. Fuck you think you know me from? Just cause you related to them gangsters, that don't make you one. I ain't got no bloodline in these streets, but I could spill me some. I ain't got no mercy for this bitch, and she outside with us. They on demon time, we bring them hell and the fire with us. All the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think you bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming, if you came with me. You know what's going, stop playing with me. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think you bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't ducking nothing. You know when I pull up on your block.